but for the sound of conversation on the water. There is someone inland waiting for you. Two men and a woman stand on the concrete square of a nameless village, looking at a small yellow boat as it draws closer. The sea is calm. You reach the jetty and climb out of the skiff. Is this it? Is this the trio of people I supposedly came here with? We weren't sure if they're even real or what.
Look what the tide brought in.
Oh, here we go. These are my people. Which one of these is the guy that was wearing the wig? That seems to be the woman from before. The people we called in on? I think, yeah, Jean Vickermare we've talked to before, I think. Says the man without sunglasses. Suddenly his expression changes and he tilts his head.
Harry, you're bleeding all over the place. You're half dead.
Whatever this is, it is completely unimportant compared to what you've just seen. This is the man with the sunglasses from the whirling in rags. Where are his sunglasses? So that's him. No one else seems bothered by the bleeding.
Bothered by it? Harry, you look like you need a fucking organ transplant. Fuck it. Let's not get into that.
He takes a deep breath. Wait, you're the man with the sunglasses.
That's right. And you're bleeding.
Who are you people?
Hello, I'm Trent Heidelstein. I believe we've met on several occasions.
I'm your goddamn partner, Jean-Vic Mar, and this is your special task force, or what's left of it.
He says, gesturing towards his companions.
Special Consultant Trent Heidelstein, Patrol Officer Judith Minot.
Hi.
We have come to scrape what's left of you off the pavement.
Lieutenant Kim Kisoragi, Precinct 57. We've just come from the island where our investigation led us.
He points to the sea fort. The scene is making him... making even him feel as though he has to justify your actions.
We might need your help with something later.
He adds, suddenly regaining his confidence.
But this is clearly a departmental matter, so I'm going to leave you to discuss it among yourselves.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
It's good to meet you, Lieutenant Kitsuragi.
She says warmly, flashing Kim the tiniest of smiles. Letting the lieutenant know he shouldn't feel embarrassed over the shitstorm that's about to befall you. Forget about all this. There's a giant...
We're not forgetting about anything. Look at you.
He points at you with both hands. What is this about?
Harry, we want to help you. Trant, I believe this is where you come in?
I don't quite know what I'm doing here. I was asked to participate as an expert. I think I need to manage your expectations a little. I'm at best an enthusiast in cognitive science. My background is in something else entirely. I engage in neurology on a merely theoretical level. In fact, I should probably get going.
No, Trent, it's too late. You're part of this shit now. What have you got to say for yourself, shit kid?
Shit kid. What an interesting moniker. What is a shit kid? You, shit kid, that's you. Despite all you've done, the deserter, the phasmid, the case. Despite all that I've done. No, because of all that you've done. How'd you know I was here? The cafeteria manager you fucked over told us where you went. I saved his establishment and he betrays me. Strange. He didn't mention that. In fact, the establishment didn't look saved at all. There was a giant aerograffito in front of the building mixed with blood. No, it was just this one junior delinquent. I don't know. He squints at you suspiciously. It had shit kid written all over it. Oh, it's so great I'm being blamed for it. I should have just burned it. You never told me you're not the horse-faced woman? What? What a weird, rude thing to say. So, Trent Hiddleston turns out to be Special Consultant Trent Hiddleston. Yes, I am Trent Hiddleston. I never said I wasn't Trent Hiddleston. Wait, what was up with the kid then? Mikhail? Mikhail is my son. Oh yeah, what was up with all the interesting history spying on me? No, I was just interested in the Feld building and the Martinez beachhead, and Mikhail wanted to see Martinez. It was a coincidence. Him being there with his son, it was not a coincidence. It's difficult to see, but he was worried about you and also interested in the Feld building. So what are you special consulting here? What indeed? He looks at the dilapidated shacks, then you. I was asked to share my take on some of the more obscure theories developed in Königstein in the 30s, like partial psychotraumatic amnesia, group personality theory. He's here to see if you're insane. He's smart. Let's move on. You aren't the man in sunglasses at all. You're not even blonde. Guilty as charged. He exchanges a look with the special consultant. I heard you'd lost your mind and your memory. I wanted to see if it was true. And it was. Good work, Harry. You're insane now. There's one less person for me and everyone else to rely on. He was too sarcastic for you to realize who he was. Maybe you hadn't been so sarcastic, I would have realized it was that I knew you. I'm clinically depressed, Harry. Sorry if I wasn't in the mood to butter you up after you told us to fuck off. Actually, I suspected something was off. Did you? He adjusts his tie. Or did you literally not recognize my face? We've been partners for how long, Harry? Don't answer that, you don't remember. Absolutely no idea. 100 years? Judging by the familiarity you feel towards him, 2 years minimum? Maybe a short but close stint on the task force. This feels like a weird thing to shout at somebody, but fine. You never told me you're not the horse-faced woman, which is a rude thing to say. Lieutenant? She says with a heavy sigh. My name is not horse-faced woman, it's Judith Minot. I was assigned to your unit 2 months ago. I thought we were friends. We're still friends, I just have a stupid head. Okay. Another sigh. Because you're my commanding officer, I really want to respect you. I want us to have a normal relationship. That will never happen, Jude. He's the rudest man on the earth. He is the reason why the rest of us have to take sensitivity training, and I hate sensitivity training. Duped again. No one's who they say they are. Duped? Here's a brilliant idea. Don't be a morbid drunk, and you won't be duped so easily. This is the worst accent I've ever tried to do. I'm not. This game's taken a lot of work to try to even put half an effort into it with the voices. I'm not a fucking voice actor, man. But these guys say like 3 lines and they quit on me. Gardener, scab leader, this. Turn to the lieutenant. Tell me at least you are who you said you were. Yes, I am still Kim Kitsuragi, still lieutenant from the precinct 57. Still caught up in this crossfire too. Do I have more points again? I do actually. Oh no, it's the same one from before. You know, this would be a good time to have more cop points, frankly. Just in general. You mentioned a task force? Yes. Major Crimes Unit, under Lieutenant Dubois and Vickermer. Ring any bells? Refresh my memory. Who else is in this? Refresh your memory. It's a goddamn Major Crimes Unit. There's you, me, Jude, Trant, fucking Hiderstam, and Guillaume Bevy. He stares at you. I'm technically just a civilian advisor. Fuck you, you're part of this shit show. Yeah, first, who's Guillaume Bevy? There's a Guillaume? I don't know. Oh, that is an interesting story, actually. He's not smiling. Guillaume Bevy is a police reporter who joined our team. He was really good, then he left because he lost faith in your ability to lead the unit. Other people have left too. Good, smart people. People we won't get back. Only me and this really patient patrol officer are still here, and Trant because I'm forcing him to stay. Is this Guillaume Bevy blonde and partial to sunglasses? Is this Guillaume Bevy blonde with sunglasses like you were? See? There. He wags his finger at you. He's getting it. I was impersonating him. Look at me. I am G. Bevy. I was going to be funny, but that you really did have brain damage, so not so much anymore. He sincerely thought it was going to be amusing for both of you. Oh, it's gonna be this big funny joke where he dresses up as another person. But then I couldn't tell who he was. Okay, so what does the unit do? Do? It's a major crimes unit. We clear the desk cases so Precinct 41 doesn't look like the worst station in town. We're a shit tier now, Harry, because of you. The 41st isn't. He trails off, not wishing to finish the sentence. Where have you been all this time? Where have we been? We've been fucking off as far as I remember. He crosses his arms. You told us to fuck off. You said we're cramping your style. You're detective god. Fuck everything. All will burn, detect or die. I said all those things? I'm not like that anymore. Yes, you're sorry. You're the sorriest cop who ever lived. Nothing has changed, Harry. I've heard this repentance shit a million times over. None of this is ringing any bells. The bells aren't ringing because you have brain damage. Trant. He turns to the blonde. This is where you come in. How bad is it? Well, he doesn't have any visible tremors. He talks without slurring. He can drive a boat. He's standing, reasoning, all good signs, but complete retrograde amnesia. Episodic and semantic. Meaning, you forgot both who you are and the definitions of money, Isola, pale, and so on. As displayed in the station call, our interactions with him, and I don't want to be a snitch, but... he makes air quotes. But also, mine with him before, when Harry did not seem to know who I was. It's all very interesting. Interesting? Yes, interesting. I have my theories, but I would like to hear Harry's thoughts first. Harry? He turns to you. What do you think happened to you? Neurologically, psychologically, and why not socioeconomically? Wait, socioeconomically? You think I'm so poor I lost my memory? Not when you phrase it like that, but I don't think critical theory. I know everyone thinks this is far-fetched, pink academia, but still, I don't think it should be off the table here. What, he lost his memory because of capitalism? No, not like that. I'm not talking Rutherford School here, but Harry, I asked you, what do you think happened? There's a lot of options. There's a lot of options here. You can blame it on drinking, or that you've made it up. You can literally claim that you've made up the entire amnesia, and it's never was real. You can say it's the anomaly in the church, or this is a method to solve the case, or something sad happened that I deleted my memory out of a defense mechanism, which somewhat shows from the fact that I like blacked out when I looked in the compartment of my own clipboard. And then capitalism. Capitalism fucked me beyond all recognition. It might have something to do with an anomaly in the church, a 2mm hole in the world. Corresponding to the 20cm hole in your brain? Sure. This theory has great symmetry. I like how it folds into itself neatly. I'll explain later, but there's another man who lost his memory. A crab man. Crab man is an unfortunate choice of words, but I was there. The church on the coast shook from an audio-spatial anomaly. It may have been entroponetic, or perhaps related to radio waves. Either way, I have put this into my report. You should read it. I do not, however, think it has anything to do with him drinking himself to the point of brain damage. Thank you, Lieutenant Kitsuragi. Just to clarify, I do not think isolary entroponetics are a hoax. Pale produces global phenomena. It's proven. However, what has not been proven is total memory loss after drinking too much Commodore Red. Honestly, I think he's just lying to us. But Detective Vickermere, she interjects, he has blanked out before. I have? Yes, a couple of times. After some of the more serious benders. She pauses, remembering. One was after the two drunks case. The other was when we looked into the mural. So you don't remember not remembering. Beautiful. The two cases in your ledger. The unsolvable case and the New World mural. Those were recent. Those cases were hard on you. Interesting. So at first he dipped his toes into it, prepared. That's where he would have gotten the idea, yes, practice. Then he used alcohol to get there, so to speak. What do you mean? Well, here's my theory. What if this is an absolutely normal reaction to the world we're living in? What if this is not a significant anomaly at all? Something to be explained, approached as a defect? Look at the sensory input here. He gestures towards the scenery. Look at the ruins, the neon. Listen to the radio, the multitudes, the people. Live here for 40 years as a police detective. He's like a magnetic reader on the world tape, to borrow a known metaphor. Harry's been pushed flat against it. Total input. Hardwired to the free market. He nods confidently. He just needed for it to end. Okay, Trant, thank you. That's absolutely meaningless. I'm glad we brought you. Will he or will he not be able to work in the major crimes unit? Is he a cretin now? I want to know that. He is not a cretin. And he is able to do work, if not in his previous leadership role, then as a line detective. Line detective is good for now. For now? He looks at you, then at Trent. I misphrased my question. It should have been, is he able to put his clothes on and use the potty, or do we need to get him on disability pension? What now? Now, nothing. Now we're going to just stand here. Really? No. Now now we discuss that. He points to the water. What the fuck do you do to a... What the... Oh, right, the car. Yep. Yep. What the fuck did you do to our motor carriage? Why is it there, Harry? Ellie? I'm not practiced at all. There's no consistency. I keep drifting towards vaguely Russian. I thought the killer would be underwater. He wasn't. Tequila sunset. I also jumped the canal, by the way. I drove it into the ocean while I was drunk. Yep. You can still stick with the original line that it's stolen by Jacob Eero. Eero? Jacob Eero? And then just pretend that you don't know it's even there, which is incredible. I drove into the ocean when I was drunk. So refreshing. He just admits it. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for destroying 45,000 real of police property that's coming out of everyone's payslip. It doesn't matter. He exhales to calm his breathing. Your badge, Harry. Show me your badge. I got my badge right here. He squints at it suspiciously, trying to ascertain if it's not a blue candy wrapper or a piece of vinyl. Finally, he nods, unimpressed. Okay, and your gun? What is it with all these material objects? Gun, gun, just repeat gun. My gun is right here. Whoa, he has it. I thought it was in the ocean. He wipes his brow with mock relief. You're drunk like a bum, Harry. Put that thing away before you kill someone. I don't have any bullets, sir. So we're fine. I quit drinking. Forever. It's only me in this boring hellhole now. I don't buy it. Why do you smell like a corpse then, huh? He's wounded. He looks at you. It's been a long week, and he's handled an actual corpse. No idea what you're smelling. I washed death off of me. The man doesn't reply, but his expression speaks for him. You should have done a better job, is what it's saying. Wait, it may be because of the pheromone. Detective, please don't start talking about your pheromones again. This is serious. If you don't... She doesn't finish the sentence. Then you'll be fired. This is a hearing. Toughen up. Yeah, I've handled an actual corpse. I don't believe you. He squints. You're drunk. You let a suspect escape, a certain cliché, because you were too drunk to assess her flight risk. We've read the reports, Harry. Lieutenant Kutsuragi's, we know. The reports are already sent out? I guess they were daily, weren't they? I can keep making references to things that happened during the conversation, like the oxygen holocaust. Not taking her in was the right thing to do. She gave a vital clue that led us to the island. Oh well, if she was nice. He rubs his face in frustration. I'm not even going to get into the other suspect who also escaped. Yeah? Ruby something? Or the fact that you very likely sold your gun for booze. That's peanuts, that's nothing. That's a humorous anecdote. Ow. Compared to the 7 people who were gunned down, the streets are literally red with blood, Harry. It was fucking mass murder. He did everything he could. Lieutenant interrupts him. We did everything we could. The company hired unvetted mercenaries. Lieutenant Dubois got between them and the locals. Here comes the cavalry. He did so at considerable risk to his person. Remember, he was shot. We stopped an execution, not a negotiation. The loss of life was minimal compared to what it could have been. Yeah, it was a massacre. We got wiped. Where the hell were you? Don't make this harder for yourself, he says in a lowered voice. Thank you for your inputs, Lieutenant Kisaragi. I didn't mean to suggest you didn't handle the situation. He brushes a stray strand of hair out of his eye and coughs. You spent the week with him on this case. What is your take? On the case? On Lieutenant Euphrate Dubois. Well, he pulls up his collar. The music just faded out because they know that this is like a fucking hold your breath moment when you're gonna get your final opinion from Kim about who you are as a person. It's all been leading to this moment. He pulls up his collar. The drinking, the gun losing, also losing the badge. That's all true, although he has not been drinking on the job this week. Ah. The game remembers that I haven't had a drink all week. See? 1 week. Then there's the self-flagellation issue. He likes to apologize profusely. Make it sound like he's guilty of at least first-degree murder. It's not a good communication strategy for an officer. It's worrying. Especially considering his political views. Detective Dubois is, as you may know, a Mazovian socioeconomist. He wants to liquidate the ruling class, which again, for a police officer, is a little odd. You should yell something. Stop. I am a policeman of the state to come. That's not a good idea. Yes, let's let the big boys talk. And then there's the motor carriage in the sea, something I was not present for. He breathes in sharply. But despite all this, he is a great detective. One of the best I've seen, in fact. He can talk human beings into telling him everything, and he doesn't stop. In all the time I've spent with him, he has not once stopped pursuing leads, however far-fetched and tangential. He is tireless, madly driven. Well, except for that one time when he stopped to sing karaoke, which, by the way, was a valiant effort. He really sang his heart out. Yeah, it was what it was. Other than that one time, he has tirelessly worked on the case, and he solved it. We have a confession, a murder weapon, and the perpetrator, locked on the island right now awaiting transportation. He apprehended a revolutionary brigand who stayed hidden for 50 years, even since the revolution, who's probably committed other murders over those years. He pauses. Oh, and he also discovered a new species. A new species? A colossal stick insect. It was on the island camouflaged as the reeds. It's unfolded from the reeds. I think we may be dealing with the Insulindian phasmid. He takes out the photo and shows it to the officers across the yard. Rain comes down. He covers the glossy photo of the phasmid with his hand. You hear gasps beneath the howling of the wind. As you can see, it's about 3 meters tall. In fact, we think it may be the largest land invertebrate ever discovered. Oh right, it is an invertebrate, meaning it doesn't have a spine. That's kind of one of those basic hallmarks people use for dividing up all the different types of creatures. Genetically, things are kind of divided into different glades and hierarchies where one really specific feature developed that kind of became the core feature of that entire branch of the evolutionary tree, and everything related is kind of all in that one family. It's like you got your vertebrates, but then you got your crustaceans and so on, and your invertebrates and a bunch of just different categories. But like, yeah, invertebrate versus vertebrate's a pretty like binary split that covers things on a really fundamental level. So like finding an invertebrate that is that big is actually pretty nuts, because a spine is kind of one of the developments that helps such a large creature have internal structure and support its own weight. Boom shakalaka, motherfucker. Oceana. What does that mean again? Oceana. Osana is not the same thing necessarily. There's a song by the Stockholm Academic Male Chorus called that, and that's the primary result if you do exactly that spelling. Isn't learning fun? Translate from Malay?
Hosiana.
I don't think that's correct. That's the English version. It doesn't translate, or it doesn't seem to translate. Oh, the results are all over the place in the interpretation here. Probably shouldn't just randomly shout something. Let's just let this fucking linger in the air. Fucking hell is that? The man cranes his neck, still looking at the photo. Is this somehow connected to the case? Detective? He turns to you. Yes. I believe the pheromone it emits may be responsible for the killer's mental degradation. The old man was not aware of the phasmid's presence, exhibiting a strange atypical dementia. He fell into a stupor after its appearance. He became near catatonic. So it is connected? I must say, this, he points to the photo, is absolutely extraordinary. I don't even have words for it. Yes, it really does make it hard to fire the drunk. His tired eyes follow the photo as the lieutenant puts it away. This is a very, very sad man who has just seen something that's made him forget his sadness. Now you make your case. Now is the time. Now or never. Now, I also started a nightclub. The previous head of the Debitors Union was assassinated by our killer. Lieutenant lowers his voice just a little. This is a conversation when we are no longer out in the open in Martinez, where Everett and Edgar Clare have ears everywhere. And eyes too. Your return from the island must not have gone unnoticed. Understood, of course. But a case against Everard would be big. The consultant, too, has lowered his voice. I would prefer not to partake in anything union-related for political neutrality. This has to be good stuff for him to backpedal out of it at first mention. There was also a dead man on the boardwalk, a missing person I found. Yes, fallen through a gap in the boardwalk, drunk. How did you know I found him? The body was transported to Precinct 41, our morgue. I had Tilbrook and Mullins take care of the funeral arrangements and family stuff. You're not the only cop in the world, Harry. This all comes back to us. Still, she says quietly. Good work with the missing person, detective. The killer, Lilianovich Dross. We have a strong motive for him. Lilianovich? The special consultant raises an eyebrow. A revolutionary matronym. A revolutionary matronym? The custom started in Grad, where they have patronyms, Krasovich, Larsovich, etc. The revolutionaries saw this as a chauvinist atavism, so they used matronyms derived from their mother's name instead. This man's mother was Lillian. He's Lillian's son, Lilyanovich. The custom was overturned after the revolution failed, but not before it made it to Revachol. So it is what a soldier of the RCM would be called. Thank you, Trant. Thank you for that piece of cultural theory. He turns to you. You said you have a motive. Of course. Excuse me. I just thought it was noteworthy. I finally have my goddamn breakthrough. It's been long enough. It's my last one, perhaps. How's my points going? Nope, no more points yet. I figured this conversation was the time to max out my cop points if I was going to go for it. Unfortunate if a white check happens, but I'm more anticipating passives and red checks. I think we're in linear story bits now, so I'm not really going to leave and come back to anything, probably. He wasn't quite sure about the straggler before he heard this detail. It must have convinced him. He killed the mercenary in an act of jealousy. Jealousy? I thought this Lilyanovich was an old man. So I've been hiding for 50 years. 70-something? A strange psychosexual fixation, aggravated possibly by proximity to the phasmid and its chemicals. He himself gave a political reason. He said he killed an enemy combatant. Also, we have ballistics from the gun, matching the bullet found in the dead mercenary's head. And 2 officers on the scene that Mr. Dross confessed to. It's a clean win. Oh, it's way more than that. I'll win her back with this. Oh, don't be sad. It's my masterpiece. They'll teach this in cop school. Masterpiece. He rolls his eyes. Get over yourself, Eri. I can still smell the booze on the wind. No, you can't. I haven't had a drink all week, including the part where I got shot and was laid up in bed for multiple days. God damn it, doesn't it ever leave? It is there. Like, in your bones or something. It will pass in time. I confiscated drugs from Kuno's dad. Who's Kuno? You don't want to know. You're right, Lieutenant, I don't. He turns to you. You snorted the drugs, I know you did. It's alright, I mean at this point anything is but the drink. No, I haven't done a single drug or taken any alcohol. God damn it. It's been like 9 days while doing this whole case and getting shot. Also, the phasmid was female. The reeds are in its nest. Female? What makes you think so? You had to see it. It had the subdued colors of a female, and nesting behavior too, I think. Incredible. Were there eggs in the nest? Not as far as I could see. There were other things there, though. He turns to you. It's interesting time. Forget about the rest. It had gathered items in its nest. A helmet and a scope. Actually, you know, this would indicate it was a male. This is far from anything in my field, but I think such nests are called bowers, and they are for attracting mates. Boas are built by males of species who can't afford colorful mating displays physically. This one was plain colored. Well, thanks Encyclopedia for fucking letting me hang myself here. Yeah. Yeah, with boas, the male will create sort of like a collection of interesting objects in order to entice members of another gender, basically. When they talk about being able to afford physical displays, we're talking about the fact that, like, it's when you're talking about biology in terms of, like, budget and energy and so on, and that you need a certain amount of consumption and energy in order to be able to grow these, like, extraneous parts of your body. Because a lot of creatures, like, especially like birds, for example, a lot of their body can be this, like, extravagant setup just designed just to attract mates, not to camouflage, not for any particular hunting purpose, but just because the colorful display and plumage and all that helps attract mates. So it's an endless competition against the others of its own species. But the act of doing that has costs. In the case of like a peacock, it gets in the way of their basic function as a bird. And, like, the peacock doesn't fly, really, not much, not long distances. It can kind of just jump to a place. It can kind of just, it can go for, I don't think it can, now I'm getting a little mixed up. I'm pretty sure peacocks can't fly, not like long term, but they have wings, so they can kind of get around a little bit with that. But like they have a massive, just completely unreasonable amount of feathers and plumage and all that, and it's because of this, like the physical version of this. But like that's costly. It gets in the way of their survival ability and their ability to do other actions, but also like the act of growing that stuff requires more energy, and because the body it has to be used in the body, like extraneous things on the body tend to shrink away over generations if they're not doing anything. Because spending energy making that and maintaining it and continually replacing it, because of course all the cells in your body are replaced over time, over the course of years, over and over again. So like you don't just grow it once, you have to continually regrow it for your entire life. It just makes sense to not have it. So you kind of save on your biological budget by not having certain things. So when it comes to the competing for mates and stuff, there are creatures that have behavioral adaptations that are built around those rituals instead of physical ones. That's what they mean when they talk about that stuff. It could have been male, actually. It must be robust if it can move a helmet with its limbs. He trails off, lost in thought. It could maybe roll it, like a dung beetle? I don't know if it's a good idea to believe my delusions about the parthenogenesis. Let's get the exact definition of that. He called it cloning. I think the first result that comes up is stick bugs, funnily enough. Reproduction from an ovum without fertilization, especially as a normal process in some invertebrates and lower plants. It's asexual reproduction. And yeah, the results that come up are like various versions of stick bugs that come up. Brine shrimp, whiptails. There's some lizards in here. Some wasps. Race runners. Komodo dragon. Oh yeah, I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah. Some blue belly, skinky looking lizards with the stripes. Anyway. I think it reproduces by parthenogenesis. As in cloning itself. What makes you think so? It told me, let's not quite. Observation. Well, then it wouldn't matter if it's male or female. The bower would just be a rudimentary behavior form behavior from before the parthenogenetic mutation. That makes sense, yes. Oh, we should talk to this Trent guy more often. We get to bounce ideas back and forth. Very interesting. He looks around, quickly assessing the coast. Such organisms are extremely vulnerable to disease. A single strain of bacteria could wipe out the whole species. We're probably looking at conservation efforts here. In his mind, he's already planning a nature reserve and knows a guy for that. It has mandibles that look like hair, and it was completely white on the inside. Yes, but also reed-colored, beige and brown. A little green on the outside. After unfolding from a single stalk, it still retained parts that looked like reed tufts on its limbs. Incredible, he repeats, turning to Vickermare. The PR value of this is exceptional. Cop discovers new species, maybe even discovers the Insulindian phasmid. No, that's too much. This would really help with some of the problems we've been having. Absolutely, this is great. This does not say vigilante murderers to me at all. Oh no. This says science, news, human interest. He smiles. You know, it's a really good thing you have that photo. Without it, he shakes his head. I also looked into the mystery of the doomed commercial area. He shrugs. I don't know what the doomed commercial area is. Rue de Saint Ghislaine. A commercial building where all the businesses go bankrupt. I looked into it. Why? That's not what you were supposed to do here. There was a fridge we needed, and a possible witness. He was just chasing a lead and ended up advising a local shopkeeper. It was okay. Of course. He turns to Vickermare. Call it community outreach, right? Dodged a bullet there. For a moment it seemed like you were just wasting time. That's exactly what I'm iffy on about the nightclub and the church. We already talked about the point in space, so talking about the nightclub seems like it might not be the most helpful, but maybe it can be spun as like, look, I got all these kids to not be taking drugs. And help the local scientist. I mean, the nightclub might unironically be the most positive thing I did in the game to the community. Towards like any kind of progress towards a better thing. I don't know. I also started a nightclub in the church. What was that? He cups his ear, the wind blows. It sounded like you set up a nightclub in the church. Yeah, and I discovered a hitherto unexplored entropnetical phenomenon in there too. A 2mm hole in the world. Get a grip. No one cares about your entroponetic adventures right now. 4 kids were living in a tent in the ice. They were going to drown when it melted. It's not optimal, but the building was abandoned, so we put them in there. It's okay. Kim, you got my back, aw. So what do you say? You want to take this hot shit back? I don't want to, but you discovered a new species and solved a murder. He shrugs. So I have to. Jude? A quick nod. Anything that ends the trial is okay with me. Agreed. The public relations potential of this is too valuable to let go. Okay. He sighs. We have vehicles in the square. And the perpetrator needs to be taken into custody. Let's go. Wait, I have a few questions before we go about who I am. The man looks westward impatiently, jingling his car keys in his pocket. Okay, am I a dirty cop working for La Puta Madre? No. No, because the suspects seem to think You're too unstable to work for a mob boss. You're suicidal, Harry. No mob boss would take you. I assure you, I wouldn't consult for a corrupt unit. He would immediately backpedal out of it. I told you, it's not that bad. Thanks a lot, suspect, for putting that in my head all game. Or last dozen hours of it or so. Who am I? Who are you? You're a gym teacher, Harry. What? Well, obviously you're not a gym teacher anymore, but before. Before you were a cop, you were a gym teacher in Koran. He looks at you. It's getting really cold outside. Should we maybe... That does explain a lot. Harry, Harry, I can't. What was the voice at? Harry, it explains everything. it explains everything about you. What the fuck is wrong? I'm losing it. I'm losing it. Too many hours of trying to do dumb voices. Harry, Harry, it explains. I can't. It's impossible. It's gone now. I've lost the #1 voice I do all fucking game apparently. Let's try this again. Harry, it explains everything. The running around, the jumping, the bicep girth, your inexplicable facial hair. Bicep girth? I am not a physical instrument. Can't you tell? I'm a sad baby. The collection of fallen sportswear I've amassed. Your moves on the church floor, which honestly were just jump aerobics. Your use of the word graffito. And this guy too. God, even this javelin throwing freak here. When was this? When was I a gym teacher? In your 20s or late in your 20s or late 20s. You've really let yourself go since then. He looks you over. You said in Koran? I was a gym teacher there? Yes, you taught gym in Koran. I believe that's the term. Taught gym at high school. You were a high school gym teacher. The smell of sweat and glue. The worn floorboards. Koran is just east of Jamrock. It was a short walk every morning to the baseball field or the sports building. High school, Harry. Your goings on with Kuno, Andre, Essel, the whole thing on the ice. That's why you're so juvie. His smirk suggests barely contained laughter. Why did I join the RCM then? The regular. You found some chick. She inspired you to fight the big fight. Be more than you are, all that. You, every morning, walking from Voyager Road to teach gym. She, leaving for the academy with her spring coat on. The air filled with the smell of smoke and raspberries and incredible hope. An ocean full of hope. Okay, I see now. I knew it. I knew no normal human being could run like that. He's an honest-to-God gym teacher. Why am I like this? It's not a mystery. Some chick fucked you over and now you're drunk. Some chick who? Dora something. Dora Ingerlund? He thinks. Yeah, you mentioned her name. Not Dora Dubois? Wait, Dora Ingerland. Something like that. Harvazan. Vasa is where beautiful and impossibly blonde people come from. So we weren't even married. No one is married anymore. This is Revachol. No one gets married anymore? When was this? God, I don't know. He thinks. 6 years ago? She was way before my time. 6 years ago, and you haven't gotten over it. What the hell is wrong with you? 6 years? Yeah, or 7? You're not doing too good there. It's an old man thing. 2 old years equals 1 normal year. That and Dora England really tore you a new one, a big one. Who was she? Incredibly bangable? No, I meant what did she do? She was incredibly fuckable. A beautiful bourgeois woman, waifish. Like a Welkin, basically. I'd almost read that as waifu. I'm broken by the internet. Snow Welkin. Blonde Welkin. I've only seen a picture, but it's obvious you formed a real spiritual connection with how pretty she was. One you never recuperated from. Look. She turns to face the sea. The sun is going down. It's time to go home. I think she taught in the Académie des Arts, east of the river. Way east. Hard to say which came first, the middle class chick or the drink. Egg and the chicken kind of thing. I come to think of it, this is a side tangent, but I think today's entirely scripted about what time of day it is as you proceed through the story. In particular, I've noticed that this is the one day of the year, the one day of the game basically, where people keep referring to what time it is all the time. They keep referring to like the currents, like how the sun's going down and stuff like that. Or like what type of day it is. And I think it's because of the fact that the, you're in the end game. Like, all of the wandering around stuff has largely gone away. I don't know if the game really intends for you to sleep a single more time, as like actually change days. This might be, day 8 might always be the final day that you like skip to when you get shot or whatever. Or maybe not day 8 specifically, but this might, I think this might have a specific arc to it where every time you get to specific milestones in the main story for today, it moves forward in time in a really consistent way. Partly I'm thinking that because today went by super fast. You don't normally talk to like 3 people and then the day's ending already. So like it's going by faster than normal, but also people keep referring to the time. So I think today's like really down to the wire and specific and scripted in a way that the game hasn't been until now. I think she taught in the Académie des Arts, east of the river. Way east. Hard to say which came first, the middle class chick or the drink. Egg and the chicken kind of thing. My point is, you'll need to see a psychiatrist about this shit. Not a psychologist. Several degrees harder. Is there something harder than a psychiatrist? He pauses to think. A forensic psychiatrist, go talk to that. In other words, he's heard enough about this. Precinct 41, what kind of station is it? Us? We're the bloody murder station, haven't you heard? We're the bad guys, no one likes us. That's not true. Jamrock is too big for one precinct. You're just understaffed, and everyone respects the 41st. You have Captain Price. Thank you, Lieutenant, you're being kind. It is an understaffed station and the district is too big, which is why we need to... He tilts his head northward. Get back to it. We'll have Torson and McLean to run the Sea Wing. It's not good. Torson and McLean? Mac, the Torso Torson, and Chester McLean. She arches an eyebrow. They're not fit to run a wing, believe me. Things are shaky as it is. They are damn iconic, though, Torson and McLean. An iconic duo, I take it. Yeah, not like us. 2 clinically depressed old men. Where's the contrast here? We're garbage. And the Sea Wing is... God, he sighs. There are 4 wings, Airy. A, B, C, and D. We are C. It's made of losers and clock punchers. You and I, we conceptualized it as a task force. It was a mistake. There's also a lot of outside help involved, not only me. He smiles. Other losers too. And Price is... Ptolemy Price? He's the son of the old Price, one of the founders of RCM. He's one of the most highly regarded men in the force, you're lucky. Somewhere under the curved roof of a former silk factory, shaped like a ladybird with 2 chimneys, Police Captain Ptolemy Price sits behind a heavy wooden desk. Resident medic Nix Gottlieb pours him coffee. It's silent in the captain's office. They speak of change, the city, the tension on the streets, They speak of the events of April and the blood on the streets in May. Did we recently shoot up a church by any chance? So he remembers that. Yes, there may have been a raid on some churches. It wasn't good press. Shooting up churches never is. I was out of town, to be clear. What happened? Why we need to go there? Our enemies were hiding in a church. To the best of our information, that's it. I'm not talking about this anymore. Your security clearance is shit tier right now. You have to wait for it to go up. Your clearance will not go up while you're within earshot of Union headquarters. So I work in the Bloody Murder Station. Okay, it's not the Bloody Murder Station. It's an old converted silk mill with green desk lamps and a coffee corner. A lot of good people work there, hard every day. Jamrock's the largest ghetto in Revachol. Falberg, technically, but it's divided into 11 districts. Jamrock only has us. The press will blow the press will blow over, he says in a reassuring tone. Jamrock is lucky to have you, and it's often considered to be the greatest of the districts. You're lucky to have it. Thank you again, Lieutenant. The Phasma, I need to tell Lena about this ASAP. Who is Lena? She lives in 1113 Tabernacle Road in Jamrock, remember? A cryptozoologist. She lives in Jamrock on Tabernacle Road. She told me about this Phasmid. Tabernacle? It's on the way over near where you live, on Perdition. She looks at Vickermere. Fine, if we're going to drop you off anyway. She and her husband were conducting the search for the Phasmid. It's their discovery in part. They should know as soon as possible. It would do you good to deliver some positive news for a change. Lieutenant Kitsuragi, what will you do now? Well, first I will go back to my station and write the most detailed reports anyone has ever seen. It will have to be good to cover all this. Then I will have a serious talk with my captain. About what? He pulls up his collar and looks around. The cold spring light reflected in the lenses of his glasses. Detective, we just stopped a small-scale war. Something is happening in Revachol. I don't know what yet, but it's going to be hard. A hard spring for the RCM. We need to get ready, infiltrate, investigate. Distant traffic. A scrap of newspaper drifts by, carried by the wind. It says tensions rise in Terminal YC in light of debiteurs strike in Terminal B among representatives of heavy industry in Cull City, you read. Want to do that at Station 41? Talk to Captain Price? I'd rather not ruffle the feathers of two captains with my doom-mongering. No, I mean investigate. Come work in Precinct 41. Work with Price? A crooked smile quivers on his lips. I'm flattered, but I don't know if I would fit in. Am crazy enough? Can take the stress? He doesn't know how to finish the sentence. This truly came as a surprise to him. Not a bad one, but he's at a loss. Flattered? You, Lieutenant Kitsuragi, we would be flattered if you even considered. The man turns very serious all of a sudden. I would have to tie things up in GRIH first, but I mean, whatever is coming, Jamrock will be more central to it than the harbor. And we have a huge caseload, Lieutenant, she says with a smile. Piles that we need to get back to, mountains even. I do like the sound of that. He returns her smile. Oh my god, Kim's gonna join us in the... Yeah! Is there gonna be a sequel? Like, they can have a sequel. Yeah, they could have a sequel. Are we gonna get to hang out with Kim again in like 3 years? He's really considering it. I'm ready. Good. She looks at you. Then Vickermere. Go away, notifications. Fuck it, let's go. The man points down the street. Trant bought his motor carriage. It's a 20-minute drive to Jamrock. Under the evening sky, the great district turns on its lights. A chessboard of wooden houses. 80,000 living souls inside. Fire traps as far as the eye can see. From Main Street to Precinct 41, atop the motorway, to Boogie Street forking into the dark horizon. You close your eyes and hear the dogs bark. A lone woman sits by a factory window, dreaming of meteorite strikes. En route to St. Jerome? The real place? En route to St. Jerome, a square bullet slides into the square-shaped chamber. Oh, right, the square-shaped holes case. In Old South, a man without eyelids smiles. I don't like that sentence. Spring has come. It's time. Thorson? Yes. McLean? Yes. Hiddleston? No. Vickermere? Yes. Dubois? Of course. Really? Nick Gottlieb looks up from the list. I hear he's unstable. You say that like it's a bad thing. Captain Ptolemy Price gestures with a ballpoint pen. It's dim in the office, and the curtains are drawn. Harry's our man. He'll pull through. When he does, he'll side with the people. Understood. Gottlieb returns to the list. Minot? Of course. Interesting. Are they talking about the people? Is this in the future or the past? Like, is it when they're creating the department in the first place? Captain Price chose me knowing I was unstable, but that I would side with the people and get the work done? Huh. Wonderful. The woman looks north. Then can we please just go back to Jamrock now? No. It's over. We never got to finish that thought. Not that there was anything left for it to do besides for us to read a paragraph. What a game. Huh. Art style was always fantastic. I knew that like a year ago or whenever I first saw something about this game. I never anticipated that this game could be anywhere near as good as it was. I saw the art way back in the day. I'm like, ah, okay. I'm used to like a fair number of really janky looking CRPGs coming by on Steam that aren't by any of the AA RPG developers that I would usually look out for, like Obsidian or someone. And most of them look really iffy, and usually if I do a let's try of them, I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't really specifically plan on making a series out of this game. Like, looking at indie-ish, like, either third-person action RPGs or top-down CRPGs are usually like, it's just, someone's trying, it's bless them, and like, everything looks like it might be like some like Unity models with like people with bald heads because hair's too hard and stuff like that. And, like, I'm just used to I'm used to being so turned off immediately by looking at a lot of these games in this genre that like I get really caught off guard when I saw the art look that good. But I still had like mediated hopes where I'm just like, yeah, maybe we'll keep an eye out, put on the wish list, keep an eye out as it comes out. And then it came out and it's like, god damn. Sealang and Fuck the World were played by the same person. I don't get to talk to... Aww. Measurehead's Babe was played by the Dice Maker. I never got to talk to Lena. We don't get to have that ending, I guess. But yeah, it turned out this was a hyper-ambitious game with tons of writing and a really specific way of building characters, and this choice to have a game not built around combat, which is like what RPGs will border around or refuse to do, basically. At most, you have combat that's abstracted into like a metaphorical sense, like Y2K or Undertale or something, but it's like they refuse to not have combat, basically. But here we are. A game with no combat, except for one choose-your-own-adventure style thing where your character's stats and past decisions all culminate in a scene of life and death involving you and your partner. Which is like how you really earn the emotion and stuff like that. Huh. This thing kicked ass. Definitely a It's definitely a candidate for like game of the year, as kind of pointless as it is to obsess over that kind of stuff. But Larian Studios, Chris Avallone. Larian Studios having a hand in this kind of makes sense. For those that don't, well, that just faded. That just blinked out of existence. Goodbye credits. For those that don't know, Larian Studios are the company that makes the Divinity games, most notably Divinity Original Sin and Original Sin 2 recently. And I guess they're making Mankind, Be Vigilant, We Loved You. I guess they're making Baldur's Gate 3 now, which, oh, my backlog exhaustion flares up a little bit. I'm probably not playing that when it comes out, because I should really play the first two. In my early years, I made the mistake of playing Witcher 3 and Dragon Age Inquisition without playing the first games first, which maybe not a mistake necessarily. I was still growing my channel and it wasn't sustainable back then, so playing those games while they were new probably helped me get where I am now. But nowadays, I prefer to play a franchise in order, which is why I played Pillars of Eternity this year, and not 2. Like I don't skip ahead. So I'll probably play Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 before I play Baldur's Gate 3, but I'm gonna be preoccupied because we got Outer Wilds came out, but also Greedfall, but also like I've already played Wasteland 2, but Wasteland 1 has a remaster coming out in February, which I've been planning on playing Wasteland 1 for a while now. I was gonna try to play the original version of it, like the GOG version of or whatever of it, and just try to like stomach it. But if they can do a remaster where it's like that kind of, where it lets me play through that game, but with like an art style that isn't so baffling looking, because it's really like there's no atmosphere on like the visual style of the original one. It's just too far back. So if they can reskin that game to make it look a little more modern, that'd be kind of nice. So maybe I guess I'll be playing the remake instead. It would be nice to have Wasteland 1 and 2 done before 3 comes out, because then when 3 comes out, I can be like, I'm 100% caught up with this franchise. Because getting into a position where I have like the backlog of various RPG series done, so that whenever a sequel comes out, I can just play the new sequel with zero baggage about like what I'm skipping over would be nice. And so, given the fact that I'm talking about, yeah, I don't know about Baldur's Gate. Given the fact that I'm already doing Pillars of Eternity and Wasteland and Witcher and Dragon Age, I don't know about Baldur's Gate. Maybe eventually. It's hard to choose. Like everyone's like. There's somebody that's been commenting every single day, like, where's Greedfall? Where's Greedfall, bro? Where's Greedfall? It's like, you don't understand how many things are fighting over this fucking time. Why aren't you playing Yakuza 3 yet? It's like, everything takes time. I can't just laser focus on the one thing you like. But anyway, we're off topic too much. But no, I loved this. This was super laser focused, interesting. They committed to a really particular idea. Also dove headfirst into a lot of ideas that are kind of controversial to even deal with in video games. And also, like, it's been refreshing that in a year where so many games are embarrassing themselves by saying they're not political when they are political, like inherently. Like people from Ubisoft and Activision making overtly war-oriented games that are about like geopolitics and whatnot, and like bending over backwards to pay lip service to the idea that their games aren't political, and then idiot gamers that are all like falling for that and like agreeing with the stupid idea that the games aren't political. Like they fall for the PR speak on a lip service level while refusing to acknowledge any of like the other concepts that are this keeps happening. Like it's like how in the Joker, like he straight up yells about these political things that are super important and so on, but then like he has one throwaway line where he says that he's not political, and so people quote that and be like, see, the Joker's not political, he's not a political guy. It's like, that's not how any of this works, sir. You're embarrassing yourself by saying this. What's wrong with you? But instead, in this game, it's just like, fuck it. What are you? Are you a fascist, or are you a communist, or are you a liberal? Fucking figure it out. Like it's like there's no escape. You're gonna be categorized one way or another, and there's gonna be somebody in this game that this is gonna be somewhere in this game where that can seem like a good thing, and somewhere in this game where there's gonna be like someone who thinks like the thing that you said you thought like, and they're horrible, and it also just does these really crazy things. Like it takes risks. I get a lot of comments from people that are like, what is this, a book or a video game, and stuff like that. Like, this isn't a real video. I've had like dozens of comments about how this isn't a real video game, and it's like, it shows how it's risky to even make games in this kind of genre and commit in this way to this kind of idea, but that's why you should applaud it when it happens, because it's a great idea. It's really cool stuff, and those people can fuck off. But unfortunately, we don't want them all to fuck off, because, you know, you want something like this to sell so that it can be viable to make more. Not necessarily sequels, because oftentimes it's better just to strike out on new things on a regular basis instead of like always iterating on everything on like, well, you can still iterate, but I mean, like, you don't need to literally make named sequels to everything necessarily. Although at the same time, I don't know if I'd mind one. I'd probably still be quite happy if it was announced, but I'm always happy to see people make new things too. But even sequels aside, like just having the studio be viable and keep pushing forward and so on, and also maybe even make something bigger and better next time, that kind of relies on that kind of stuff. I don't have a lot of complaints about this game. I think that generally was clear. I harped on the weird map layout, which I still think is questionable. Somebody pointed out that, like, well, it's because your map was a postcard, remember? It's not a real map. But it's like, but the map is like a perfect representation of the actual in-game world as far as I can tell. And no matter how you look at it, the island is to the north, whereas Clash's windows faces the southwest-ish. If we take the up direction as being north, it doesn't face the island. Like, it's just... It just doesn't face the island. It doesn't face the coastline, therefore it doesn't face the island. It's pretty straightforward, I would say. You have to face the coastline in order to face the island that's past the coastline. And Clash's window faces downward instead, so it's just... That one point's strange. The interface is iffy, and the voice acting... It would be nice to get pulled into the world more by having a better coverage of voice acting, but it would also be nice if some of the voice acting was better done. I can't criticize the actual voice acting by the people that much, because it's all heavy on accents and so on. I'm not the best to say how well the voice acting was or anything, but on an audio quality level, there's like really varying issues where like there's like I don't know where they recorded their audio, but it kind of sounds like it wasn't done in professional locations. I almost wonder if maybe it was like if like they contacted remote voice actors on the internet or something, and like they like sent in their files when they read the lines out or something, and like they paid for their time. Like it sounded like all the different voice actors might have been on different microphones in different rooms with like different editing systems at times. Like some characters were super quiet while other characters were super loud. Some characters just sounded like they were different on very technical levels that weren't because of the person speaking necessarily. And it just stood out. It stands out in particular because the rest of the game's presentation is so strong that having one specific element that seems especially indie when the rest of the game doesn't actually seem especially indie, that thing stands out. Other than that, it's the interface. Sorting through your items is just kind of a nightmare. There's just a lot of items, and the way that you sort through them is iffy. And the white checks menu is just kind of broken. There's no way to sort which ones you want to keep an eye on and which ones you don't want to keep an eye on, but also like ones that aren't even available anymore stay on the list forever. So like there could be a check from day one that will just stay on, that you didn't do, and it'll just stay on your list for the rest of the campaign, just clogging it up with extraneous details that don't mean anything. It's also maybe, this isn't the biggest problem, but it's a slight issue that like you have to make your character before you fully understand how the game works, because this game is a really particular style of leveling where the way you spend points and the way that stat caps work and also how white checks work is all like kind of vital information. And I definitely found myself thinking like, I was somewhat tempted to start over and make a different character at times, just because you limit yourself in ways you could never predict. Because going in, you're like, okay, I'll be good at these still. You put a bunch of points into these things and not a lot of points into these things. You're thinking, okay, I'm probably going to, like, you know, be really successful at certain skill checks, but not successful at other skill checks. Gotcha. That's the standard approach of RPG skill checks and so on. So like, I'm like, okay, I'm game for that. But then you, in execution, you're like, oh, there's a series of like white checks that you need to unlock stuff. And if you put one of your stats to 1, then for the rest of the campaign, all of those skills can only unlock one. You can only unlock the white checks for that skill once in the entire playthrough, aside from really weird things like the dice or your thought cabinet, which can clear out a white check, but only in really random cases you could never predict that come as a surprise, more or less. I don't know. They did a great job making a world. It was just a really believable, lived-in place that you kind of got a good feel for. I also kind of like that this start screen is like the reverse angle. Like that's the church in the foreground, so that background we're seeing there is adding depth to make the world more believable and more extensive sounding, because we're just hanging out in this little like wharf area. But if you look past this camera, the foreground is the area we were playing in. Like that little pier there on the left is the one that Joyce was staying on at the beginning of the game. And I could make out the whirling in rags if I keep an eye out, but I'm not quite spotting it right now. But this camera angle shows us that if you look behind this, you can see the larger city behind there. I don't know. Maybe they'll make a Disco Elysium 2 that takes place in Jamrock, since this game took place in Martinez, which is like this weird legal twilight between regions, which is why we met up with Kim. Maybe there is a sequel in the works being thought out where you deal with the increasing political frictions of the region, and then you and Kim are dealing with new problems in a new area. Maybe. But yeah, I had a good time. As a Let's Player, it was a little rough for reasons that I don't hold against the game specifically, but I was reading text aloud for basically the entire playthrough. So it's a little rough on the voice, and also a little like draining to just read for an hour straight. That was kind of already so I started doing 1 hour long episodes of RPGs because I wanted to get through RPGs faster and focus on them a little better, because I feel like they're underserved by a half an hour format, just because some of them are so long and also slow paced. And that shows here, where like I could talk to one person for well over an hour sometimes. So that's fitting, I think. But I started this format for Pillars of Eternity, just knowing how long it would take. I wanted to make it take half as long to go through the game. And one thing about other CRPGs is that you do mix up your type of play and go off and like do some combat and now explore a dungeon and loot some stuff and level up your characters and all that other stuff. There's some leveling and stuff in this game and some exploring, but like this game, the downside of it having no combat is that it like almost the entire game is spent talking to people, which seems good on paper, but like there's also just like there is something to be said about the types of play, and that pivoting between different ways of playing a game and different styles of gameplay over the course of a game helps have it kind of have like better pacing and just kind of general better flow. Like the back and forth between being in combat versus exploring versus talking versus solving puzzles, etc. Pretty much any game tries to mix up a variety of different little types of play in order to make the game feel better paced and less monotonous and so on. And I think to some extent that criticism can be kind of levied against this game, just because of how much of the percentage of your gameplay time is spent doing the dialogue exclusively, which is what it does well, and that's kind of the point of it. But, you know, being a CRPG, all of its peers kind of have other things for you to do besides just that. But, you know, that's perhaps where some of the indie-ness shows up, I guess, is that idea. I'm not saying replace it with more combat necessarily, but there's other things you could potentially do. Kind of like how there are various detective games out there where you don't actually... there's various detective games out there where you don't fight, but you'd still have like mini games of some sort. I can't help but maybe think that there could have been some kind of puzzle systems or something, but it's hard to say. It's very easy for those kinds of systems to become too gimmicky and too repetitive or too not as fleshed out, and also to potentially cause friction with the skill system by having this like execution problem that's outside of your skills or something. So like I'm not committing to anything when I say these things, but I'm just thinking about how like it is worth noting that just how this is just sort of considered to be general wisdom about how to handle a game, is that like there's kind of supposed to be different states of play a little bit more than there were. Whereas the states of play here were mostly the back and forth between main quest or side quest. The most investigative part might have been the doomed commercial area, but it was definitely always exciting to find a new area, because when you're in a new area, you then get to poke around a visual environment and poke at the little details and environments for a bit before quickly settling back into being in the endless conversations. Well, not endless, because we're at the end of them, haha. But no, I like the characters, I like the world. This was interesting. It was a ride, and I had a good time. The only reason I qualify the idea of it being Game of the Year or whatever is because it does have to compete with Outer Wilds, which was very special and also really ambitious for a bunch of reasons, and also an indie project, which fucking kudos to you guys, both of you. Those two companies made this like quite the year for video games, and they weren't even any of the AAA companies. Like they're kind of embarrassing the rest of the industry with what they can pull off with the resources they have. It seems like that people should be a bit taken aback. It's kind of it'll be kind of a crime if those two games don't have any kind of larger influence outside of this year, because they definitely kind of deserve to be one of those moments, like when Undertale or Dark Souls comes out, where like people keep talking about these games for years, and then like design philosophies in other parts of the industry kind of shift in response to specifically the fact that that game had the impact that it had, and so on. The kind of thing that where Undertale and Dark Souls just keep coming up over and over again, which we're rolling up on 10 years of Dark Souls now, which is nuts to think about. Because I would love to see that. I would love to see people learn lessons from these games, and only time will tell if they will. Either way, guys, thanks for watching like always, and I will see you next time.